Hey guys, HardlyBriefDan here with episode 11 of our August Game of the Month series, and this is Cannon Assault, and today we're going to work on some menu items and work on our big bomb coming in, instantiating and dropping in on our on the base. So there's several things we need to do. I've gone and done some artwork. It's pretty crappy. Like I mentioned before, I'm not that great, but it's in the Google Drive link down below. You can go ahead and download the artwork. It's two buttons. It's basically a normal button and then a highlighted button. So this will be what it looks like normally, and then when you click on or when you hover over it with the mouse, it'll turn to that. So pretty simple there, and that's what we're going to touch on right now. Well, first, what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and I'm in the main menu scene, and I'm actually going to go ahead and go to our play scene. And I'm going to copy our sky, our ground, our cannon base, and our cannon barrel. I'm going to go ahead and Control C all that. I'm going to jump back into our main menu, and I'm going to Control V to paste it all. There's a couple things I am going to do. I'm going to go ahead and delete our, remove our script for our cannon mouse control. So, because we don't want to fire the cannon, but what I do want to do is go ahead and move this to our play objects. I'm going to press play, and basically what I'm doing is I'm setting it up so that you can't move it, because we're going to add a script to it where it just moves around and shoots. Because if you remember in our game document, one of the things I wanted to have in this game was the ability to see kind of some gameplay in the background, which is what we're going to do. We're going to set up a couple scripts that basically just spawn some enemies, and we're going to randomly shoot at stuff. It doesn't have to be super detailed because we're not recording any gameplay or anything, but it's going to be simple to meet that goal for the month. As you see on the left-hand side, we have our play game. This is the button. You can see that it's blue. When I hover over it, it changes to that image, and we're going to go ahead and I'm going to show you guys how to do that now. If you remember in like the first or second video, we talked about GUI skins, and we created a skin called menu skin, and we created a custom style that we called menu. In this, I went ahead and I added my two button normal and button highlighting textures or images, and I dragged them onto normal for background. I dragged it on, and then for highlighting, I put it under hover as the background, right? So when you open the menu, it should look like that. You go ahead and click normal. You can drag and drop that texture onto the background here. I set the text to hover and normal to be black, and then I've went ahead and changed the font size to 22. Now, if you remember, we have this menu GUI script here that basically looks at the states, or we have a couple states, and basically we're using these states and saying we're not using K-switch because I didn't think there was a need. This basically does that for us, but basically we're saying if the main state is our main GUI, if we're in the main menu state, then we're going to go ahead and call this main menu GUI function script and display main menu buttons. And this is so that this script is a little more organized. It's not cluttered with a whole bunch of functions and stuff or methods that we don't need. And so if you go ahead and go into this script here, this main menu function script, I have it open already. You can see that we have this method. It's public. It returns nothing, excuse me, and it takes a GUI style, and we called it menu style. So the reason why the play button, if you remember, has the button already attached to it is because this GUI button function here takes a menu style if you have one. So what we're going to do is go ahead and copy this comma and menu style here, and we're going to add it to our other buttons, our high score and our exit button. So we're going to go ahead and add it there, and they're going to control to save. We're going to jump into Unity, and when I press play, we should see the buttons. And we do, and they work. High scores works, play game works. We'll play our game like so, which is great. Exit doesn't do anything yet because we haven't set that up. Now what I want to do is go ahead and raise Actually, no, those would be fine. I'm going to go ahead and leave it like that. I'm going to maximize this on gameplay. I kind of want to see the spacing of these buttons. Okay, so I'm going to actually go ahead and move these in a little bit and just space them out a little differently. Again, I was debating whether to switch to Unity 4.6 for the remainder of this tutorial to mess around with the new GUI system, but I decided not to. So we're going to go ahead and just use what we have here. Or Unity 4.5.2, I think it is, and we use the old GUI style. And the new for the September game of the month, I'm going to use the new Unity. It's 4.6 beta, but it seemed to work fine so far for me, so we're going to go ahead and use that. But for now, I guess we're going to try to go ahead and center our boxes. So what we're going to do is instead of having this this button rect here, 100, 100, 100, or 100, 100, 150, 75, we're going to go ahead and do, we're going to go screen dot width divided by 2. So Control to save, I'll show you, the button should shift. So you can see that it shifted in the middle, but it starts it here in the middle, and so what we want to do is shift it over the length of that button, which for us is 150, right? So we want to go ahead and I think it's minus 75, right? So half our button, and let's see, there we go. So now it's actually centered it. So we're going to go ahead and copy this for all of our other buttons because that's where we want it, or at least that's where I want it. You can access the height by doing screen.height instead of width if you want to do that. So Control to save. I've added those 3 to our buttons, and now they're in the center. So now what I want to do is change a bit of the spacing between them. So right now I have it basically there's like 25 pixels in between each of those, and what I'm going to do is go ahead and do screen.height, and we're going to go divided by 2, and we're going to go ahead and look at this. It should put it right in the middle of their scene, which it's hard to tell, but it does. It's basically putting this upper corner in the middle, which is pretty hard to tell. But what we're going to go ahead and do is subtract 75 from it. I'm just going to play around a minute. Yeah, I don't want to. We're actually not going to use screen height. We're going to go ahead and just lower it. It makes it a little easier. We're going to go ahead. I'm going to just change these by 50 because I want it a little lower on the screen, like that. I'm going to go ahead and increase the padding on these. So I'm going to make this 275. We'll actually make this 350 or 300, and then we'll make this one 450. There we go. I kind of like that. We're not covering up the cannon at all, and it looks pretty good to me. So yeah, so now we've added the menu style. We've changed so that our menu items are in the center of the screen. We've adjusted the padding on it. Our menus look a little bit more finished, which is what we want. The next thing we need to do is change up our high score GUI function, and basically we want to change it so that we take a style, and we're going to take the menu style. So I'm going to go ahead and add that here. So it's going to be of type GUI style, and it's going to be called menu style. And just like we did over there, we're going to go ahead and do a comma and then menu style. Make sure you always, Control S when you make a change, and then menu style. So now when I go ahead and press play, and we got an error. So I added this menu style here. It takes the input now. So we got to go back to our main menu GUI and actually add that in there. So we're going to go ahead and send in menu. If you remember, menu skin, here we go. This little function up here. So if you remember, we created that GUI skin, which we made a public GUI skin variable. It's up here. It's called menu skin. It's public, so it's accessible in other scripts, and it's of type GUI skin. So what we're doing is we're coming down here in our display high score objects, and we're going menu skin dot get style, and we're getting the menu style, which is the custom style that we created. Control to save, go into Unity. I should eliminate. Oh, here we go. Oh, you know what? I forgot that we're calling, we're going to go ahead. There we go. So basically, I actually had forgotten that we had changed up this. We added a couple more variables in this script, or functions in this script. It's been a while since we looked at it. It's been like 20 some days, but that's okay. So basically, we have this function over here called display high score objects, and because our high score menu is going to be displaying other things, we created this separate function that basically displays everything, right? So we have our title. But then we also have our buttons, and then eventually we're going to add our high scores. So what I did is we're going to make this display high scores objects take a menu style. So that way we can apply the menu style to all sorts of different things, labels and whatnot. And then we can also send it to our display high score buttons method, which I do here. So hopefully you understand that. I'm going to Control S to save, go back into Unity. That eliminates all of our errors. Going to go ahead and press play, and now when I go to high scores, we see that we have our two buttons. So I'm not going to actually change the way this is set up now because I don't know. I'll probably just move this. Actually, we'll go ahead and do this. What we're going to do is we're going to put our back button here, and we're going to put our play button down here, and then we're just going to display our high scores in the center. So first off, we're going to go ahead and change where our label is. We're going to go screen.width divided by 2, and I'm going to subtract 50 for this one, the menu title. So we'll go ahead and show you that. See, we moved it to the center. It's not perfectly center, and that's because I don't know how long the text is, but you can go ahead and play around with that, with this little bit here if that bothers you. The next thing, we wanted to move our buttons. So I'm going to move the back button to screen width screen dot width divided by 4, and I'm going to subtract 75 because our button is 150 wide, and that should put it down. Yep, right here. So now we're going to move it down, right? So we're going to go ahead and do screen width or screen height dot height, and we'll go ahead and divide that by 6, and let's see where that looks. 5 by 6. Okay, so that's going to add it. So what we want to do is screen height, I guess, gives us the whole value, right? So we want to, we could divide by 6 and then add, because I don't want to do that. I want to go screen height minus screen height, or screen dot height. I think that's what we want. Divided by 6. So if this gives us the whole height, it's going to give us, should put it 1/6 from the bottom. Right, so it does. Okay, but that's too low. So I'm actually going to go ahead and change this to 1/4. And then I'll explain exactly what that math is. It's very simple, but. Right, and I actually want it up just a little more. So I'm going to go ahead and say 4.5 F. I'm gonna actually leave it. I want it higher. What does 3 look like? Perfect. Okay. So basically, what I did here is I'm capturing the screen height, which in my case is going to be 1080, and then I'm subtracting 1/3 of 1080 from it to get a number, and that's going to be where we place the button. So basically, screen.height returns the maximum value of your screen height. In my case, like I said, the monitor I'm using right now is 1920 by 1080, so the screen height in pixels is 1080, and we're going to be subtracting 1/3 of that from it to put to where we want to place our button. So I'm actually going to go ahead and I'm going to copy these screen width and screen height, and I'm going to apply it to our play button, our play button up here. Which is going to put them on top of each other, which isn't exactly, that's not what we want to do, but what we can do is go ahead and do screen width, and then we'll do screen width dot width divided by 4, and that should put it on the other side, right? So there we go. We got our 2 buttons. We got our high score up in the center, and we have our play game and our back buttons. So again, what I did is I took the screen width, in my case it's 1920, and I subtracted a fourth from it, and that's where we're going to be putting our button. And actually we're going to go ahead and add 75 to it, I think. Right? I think because it is minus. There we go. Okay, so it was off center before, and that's because I didn't compensate for the button width. So what I did is I encapsulated the screen width minus screen width divided by 4 in parentheses and added a minus 75, because if you remember for the other button here, we set it to the center of that point, right? So we subtracted 75. 75 is half of 150, which 150 is the width of our button. So hopefully you get that. So now that we got a better looking GUI, we have our play game, we have our exit, which again doesn't do much yet, and then we have high scores, which will go back, or you can play the game from there. I guess the next thing we should look at is the exit game. Or, you know, we don't need to do that right now because we're not going to be compiling the game yet. So we're going to actually go ahead and do work on another gameplay element, which is dropping our bomb. So I'm going to go ahead and jump back into Unity and close up our main menu scripts folder because we don't need that right now. And I'm going to go ahead and go to our play scene. I'm going to save this scene, and I'm in the play scene now. So if I go ahead and press play, you can see that we're in the scene. And right now we have one object flying through. We have our helicopter flying through from the right-hand side, which is good. That's what we want. But we also want to drop a bomb periodically. So I'm going to go ahead and open up our gameplay manager. Excuse me. And what we're going to do is right now we're spawning, we have an enemy timer where we spawn a one type of enemy, and we're going to actually make a new timer, and this is going to be a timer that we're going to call it the big bomb timer. And I want this on a separate timer because I want to make this more rare, and we can add rarity. Basically what we're going to do when we add our next enemy type is we're going to just attach it to our enemy timer, so it's going to choose either one of those enemies. But what we want to do is add a separate timer, or what I want to do is add a separate timer that controls just the big bomb and when it launches. So we're going to actually call this we'll call it big bomb timer, right? Or we'll call it big missile timer actually. So this big missile timer, there we go. Is that right? That looks weird. Anyways, the big missile timer, we're going to go ahead and start it. We're going to start how we do everything else. We're going to instantiate. We're going to have a spawn point for it, which is going to be above. And we're going to be doing the same basic function down here. So when we elapse a certain amount, then we're going to go ahead and stop the timer, reset it, spawn our enemy, that kind of thing. So what we're going to need a couple public integers here. So we're going to go public int, and we're going to do same thing, min big, let's see, min big missile time. We'll go public int max big missile time. And then we need a public int big missile time, big missile spawn timer, right? And that's going to be in milliseconds. So if you remember, go back into Unity, you can go ahead and look at our gameplay manager. We have a min max spawn time. This is just for enemies, and we have an enemy spawn timer. And now you can see that we have these min big missile time, max big missile time, and big missile spawn time. And this is what it starts out at, and this is the minimum. So we're going to go ahead and start. We're going to say we're going to spawn a big missile at 5,000. So at 5 seconds, we're going to drop one, right? And then we're going to go ahead and range the time between it drops between 5,000, so 5 seconds, and 15 seconds, so 15,000. This can all be adjustable depending on how it seems like we're playing. If it seems like we're having fun, if it's too slow, if it's not often enough, we can figure that out and adjust it. That's why I made those public. So now we're going to go down here into the awake function. I'm in the gameplay manager script, and we're going to go ahead and say big missile timer. It's going to be equal to a new system diagnostics stopwatch, and we're going to go ahead and start it. Oh, dot start. Come on. There we go. So now we're starting our timer. We need to, if you remember, we're going to go ahead and press play. We instantiate a jet right at the start, and we actually don't want to do that this time. We're actually going to wait until the initial one goes. So what we're going to do is go ahead and, let's see, create a private function. So we can go ahead and below our private void enemy timer, we're going to go private void big missile timer, and we're going to go ahead and I'm just going to copy all this up for now. I'm going to go ahead and paste it. Again, this is not going to be exact, but we're going to go ahead and change all these from enemy timer to big missile timer and then adjust accordingly. So we have enemy timer replaced, or big missile timer replaces enemy timer. Going to go ahead and make sure all of them are changed. Okay, so we want to go ahead. So now we want to get our spawn time, which is here. Going to go ahead and copy that and paste it here. I'll grab the wrong one. Big missile spawn time. There we go. And then now we want to go ahead and change min max spawn time. So we're going to go grab our min. Going to go grab our max. And there we go. So now we know we're still going to be adding an enemy. We're going to change this has reset. We're going to get rid of that for now. We're going to change, and we're going to do that because we're actually going to have to make this bool a little more descriptive, but we can do that in a little bit. What we want to do is just make sure that this game object is actually being spawned, right? So a couple things we need to do is go ahead and make a public game object, public game object, and we're going to call this big missile, and then we're going to go public transform, and we're going to look for a big missile spawn point. Shoot. Right, and we haven't created this transform yet, so don't worry about that, but we're going to find it. So, and that's part of what we're going to do today, because you remember we have this spawn point. Let me go ahead in the scene view. Where is it? It's right here. You can see it, and this actually moves up and down. So what we're going to do is actually duplicate that, and we're going to move this one up above. Right? So we want this spawn point to control our missiles. Now this missile spawn point is going to go from all the way from like negative, let's see, where are we at? Like a -9. It's probably going to fire from like -8.5 all the way to 8.5. So I'd say. So it's going to choose randomly a spot to spawn, and it's going to do that. We're actually going to go ahead and call this big missile spawn. We're going to make a new tag. So we're going to go add tag, and we're going to change, or we're going to set, instead of spawn point, we're going to go ahead and do big missile spawn. Might as well be thorough. We're going to go ahead and change the spawn, the tag, so like that. You can see it's up there. I'm going to Control S to save. On the gameplay manager now, you can see that we have a game object spot for big missile. You can see that I haven't actually made it yet because we haven't made the prefab. But it's going to be exactly like this jet fighter ammo prefab, right? Or this jet fighter, excuse me. So it has a rigid body, it has a box collider, and it has a script. Now the script we're not going to mess with right now, or at the moment. But we're going to go ahead and make a new prefab. So we're going to make a folder, and we're going to call this big missile. We're going to create a prefab called big missile. And we're going to start working on creating that game object real quick. So I'm going to go ahead and drag the mega bomb in, is what I called it. You can see it's huge. And I'm going to actually drag it down here and resize it. I'm going to go ahead and press play. We can kind of get a gist of how massive it is. You see how big that is? So we're going to actually go ahead and make this a bit smaller. I'm going to say something like that. That looks pretty good. We want it to be big, you know. It's going to be noticeable. Plus, I put some time into it, so I want you guys to see my beautiful artwork. But okay, so we're going to add that now. I'm going to add a rigid body to it. Let's see. Physics 2D, rigid body 2D. I'm going to actually leave gravity on it for now, and then we're going to add another physics 2D object here. We're going to add a box collider to it. I'm going to zoom in and make sure our box collider is on it. And you can see right here this green light. Hopefully, this green line. Hopefully you can see it. You might not be able to see it on YouTube. I'm actually going to remove it real quick. I want to see what the poly one looks like, what it comes out to be. Actually looks kind of cool. It's not totally complete though. I'm going to go ahead and drag this thing up here, and I'm going to flip it, and I'm actually going to see it. I want to see it drop. So I'm going to go ahead and press play. That looks pretty cool, actually. I like that. We don't need that poly collider on there, so I'm going to actually remove it. We're going to go ahead and add a component of a physics component of a box collider, and we're going to set that as a trigger, maybe. Let me check the can base as a trigger, so we don't need to do that. We do need to tag this, so we're going to go ahead and make another tag. We're going to call this big missile. And so what we're going to do, so if you remember, actually let me go ahead and straighten this out. We're going to set this back to 180. So these are going to drop. These aren't actually going to drop straight down, but we're going to go ahead and set it up so that it is starting straight down. I'm going to go ahead and move it again. We'll go ahead and center it, I guess. Oh shoot. Okay, so what I did is I just centered this big bomb, and now we have our collider on it. I'm gonna go ahead. We're gonna leave gravity on it because I think that might be kind of fun to do that, so we don't actually have to apply force to it. And then we're gonna set. We don't need a trigger because our trigger down here is for our cannon barrel or cannon base. So now I'm gonna go ahead and drag this mega bomb to our prefab that we created called Big Missile. I'm gonna go ahead and delete it. Now on our gameplay manager, I can go ahead and add our big missile game object. I just dragged and dropped it. So now I can find it. I'm going to go ahead and press play, and I think in 5 seconds it's actually going to instantiate another helicopter. Yeah. So basically, it's actually not doing anything because we're not calling it. So what we need to do now is find this new spawn point of ours, and we're actually going to change this spawn enemy to spawn bomb, or big missile. And we want to look at our big missile timer, so we're going to go ahead and grab our big missile timer. Looks about right. Let me just double check up here. Enemy spawn timer. Okay, so we want to go ahead and grab our big missile spawn timer, and that's what we're going to put here. So we've created this method where we're saying, okay, let's look at our big missile timer. We're going to look at the elapsed milliseconds. If it's greater than or equal to our big missile spawn timer, which right now is set to 5 seconds, then we're going to go ahead and say debug spawn big missile. And then we're going to spawn this object. And right now we're spawning it on our same spawn point that comes from our enemy. But we don't want that spawn point. We want a different spawn point. And this spawn point is actually, and sorry for my phone, is called, what was our tag called? We called it big missile spawn point, I believe. So you go ahead and look, big missile spawn. So we're actually going to change this to big missile spawn, because that's where it's going to be spawned at from now. We can go ahead and change our transform up here is big missile spawn point. We're going to go ahead and change spawn point dot position to that. Going to go ahead and do rotation spawn point. It should be everything. I'm going to go ahead and we're actually going to call this function now in our update function here under our enemy timer. So I'm going to go ahead and control to save, and now at 5 seconds, if everything is right, it should be, we should drop a bomb. Okay, and it couldn't find it, so let's see what happened. Big missile, game object, find game object with tag big missile spawn. Okay. Looks like we ran into several of these problems. Triggered. Yeah, we still need it. Okay, here we go. This is where it called it, and basically it's saying big missile spawn point. Dot position is a game object. Find game object with tag big missile spawn. So let's see. Our big missile spawn is tagged as big missile spawn. Let's go to add tags. Let me make sure. I'm going to go ahead and copy that. Maybe I misspelled something. Doesn't look like I did. Let's go ahead and press play. Oh, did it drop the bomb? Did I miss it? Spawn enemy. Oh, shoot. Okay. So I'm watching the debug. I want to see. Here we go. Spawn big missile. So something happened. Object reference not set to an object. I'm not sure why that's occurring right now. Let's see. So we are getting here, and it's throwing an error here. So it's a game object. Let me see this spawn point. We're going to go ahead and turn that off. I'm turning off the spawn point here. We have a script attached to it. I'm going to turn it off because we don't want that script on there. I'm still not sure why it's not dropping it. Right, so apparently it can't find this spawn point, but it found the other one called tag spawn point. I'm going to go ahead and set this to 3 just because, and then 8 just to have round numbers. We turn off the big missile spawn. Oh, ha. So here we go. An issue here is I forgot to set the game object. Maybe, hopefully you guys caught that, and I apologize. So here's our error. Before we spawn anything, we need to find the game object. So it's basically, or get the transform, excuse me, which we're going to do with this statement. This was the piece of code I was missing. It was big missile spawn point is equal to a game object. Find a game object with tag, and we're finding its transform. And I'm going to go ahead and copy this and paste it. Oh, that doesn't seem like it's the error to me, but it might be. So we're going to control this to save, and let's see what happens. Hopefully that gets rid of our error. And now, okay, I didn't see a bomb. Maybe you guys did. But we didn't throw that error, so that's good. So it looked like it actually never spawned. Now why is it doing that now? Okay, so at 5 seconds it should spawn an enemy. So it should have spawned. Spawn big missile, okay. Did you guys see one? Oh goodness. Okay, let's go to the scene view. It looks like to me it did not spawn one. Oh. And that's because we are spawning a jet fighter. Okay, so we actually are spawning a big bomb, but we're actually spawning a jet fighter still, and we don't want to do that, so we want to go ahead and spawn a big missile. Again, sorry for that. So go down to instantiate. We'll change jet fighter to missile. Gonna go ahead and control S to save, and that should do it. So go ahead and press play. You can see up here that we're gonna be spawning it up here, and there's the bomb. It's set at the wrong rotation. That's okay. What we can do is change that. I think so. We're gonna come down to spawn points rotation. So this is a thing you can do. I think is go into Unity and actually just manually change the rotation of this to. I believe we want Z to be 180. Yeah. Go ahead and press play. Our spawn point. So now it's gonna. The missile should spawn at the same rotation as. There you go. So we're actually going to go ahead and set our Y up a little higher, like 10. So it gets more of the gravity effect for it. That's really fast, isn't it? I'm thinking maybe we're going to adjust the big missile gravity just a tad. Or we can actually add some drag to it. Let's see what one drag does. So now I'm just playing around with the physics, kind of seeing how it drops, because it's pretty hard to see. Ooh, I actually really like that. So what I did is I added 1 to linear drag. I'm going to go ahead and maximize it. I want to see it kind of on the screen here. That's pretty fast still. I'm going to go ahead and adjust our gravity to 0.5, and that should make it drop a little slower. Ha, that's pretty cool. We can get them to stay away. And this is because the bullets have colliders on them as well. And so we're gonna actually have to work with that. But that's the basic idea of the cannon. It's going to be dropping out of the sky. If it hits stuff, if it hits a helicopter, it's going to affect the way it's dropping, which is pretty cool. Basically what happened there is a bullet hit it before it was deleted, and it flipped it, which we don't want to happen, but we can definitely fix in a later episode, or in the next episode. And actually we're going to have to end the video here, because it's about 40 minutes long. So basically what we've done today is we've changed it up, our GUI. We've added some features to it, the buttons. I'll make sure to have that in a download link below this video. And we've added our big missile. It's dropping from the sky with some gravity attached to it, and it's basically it's set on a different timer than our enemy timer. So in the next video we're going to go ahead and finish up the big missile, and we'll probably start on the next enemy type. Yeah, we'll finish the big missile. We'll work on the next enemy type if I get that artwork done. If not, we'll just jump into the high score stuff and start monitoring our scores and saving them and working on the high score menu. But that'll be it for this video. Please like, subscribe, comment, and I'll talk to you guys next time.